The subject of my talk is the consequences of being and becoming a post-literate society and a post-literate culture. Now that may sound a little big and fussy, so we might as well say that the consequences of being illiterate. So the way I am going to present this talk is something like this. First of all, I would have to define what I mean by a post-literate society or being illiterate. And I would have to give you some examples of what's going on now. And after establishing what is going on now, and that is the real matter of concern, I would have to tell you what really reading is, what being literate is. That is, I will have to do that a little later. And of course, conclude by saying that this is the situation and we need a reckoning of this situation. Of course, would be for planners and legislators and governments and schools and teachers to see what can be done to remedy the situation. So this is the plan of my talk. First of all, I truly believe that we are in a post-literate culture, a post-literate society. And what do I mean by that? Our thought and writing have to be sequential. All reading has to follow a clear structure. That's what reading is all about. The beginning, the middle, and the end. This is one organic whole. And what we are having in a society that is post-literate is that electronic media compresses the whole experience of literacy and reading to such an extreme degree that the simultaneity of the media presentation with all that impatience and the noise replaces the quiet sequentialism of the typographic material, the dominant pattern of thought and sense-making. The literate culture as we know it has been supplanted. Those staring at a screen is a kind of visual experience, and some reading is involved. This scrolling and all that is a fundamentally different experience, ever fleeting and disjointed presentation of content. Disjointed, that is the word. It doesn't form organically. There are disjointed sound bites that deliver various statements, if they can be called statements at all, without much sequence or structure. It is radically different from reading a book. The here and now immediacy is what we have. The quiet contemplation is the soul of reading. So this is the the difference. And this is what I am talking about. So let me just say that this kind of thing is no reading. Mark Twain, the great satirist and writer, said in one of his remarkable statements, all of them are remarkable, really, the man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. That is the situation now. The search engines at our fingertips erode our incentive to remember word definition or calculate. Immersion in video content has harmed our capacity to read or write. All that reading and writing is gone missing. Attention demanding social media swamps our cognitive capacity and undermines our ability to concentrate. In other words, I would even say that what we are having is the cognitive equivalent of junk food consumption. All the skimming and all the distracted text. And then getting used to the fact that you can write something in a disjointed manner without a heading, a middle and a conclusion. Just write something. This has come to pass. This in essence is illiteracy. The neural pathways of long form reading of books, that is different, totally different. That is not innate. It is something learned and acquired and perfected. And that's what reading in school and college is all about. That kind of reading rewires our brain, the shifting of brain activity towards the analytical left hemisphere, and honing our capacity to concentrate, reason, and have deep thought and reflection. The growth of mental ability in young people. The growth of ability requires that type of reading. It is the presence of these traits that constitute mental power, which is human capital. The habits of thought, if we call it that, formed by digital reading is very different. The digital environment is optimized for maximum distraction, addictive behavior, addictive compulsions, and there is no nuance or thoughtful reasoning. This is the huge difference. And now you would ask, what is this reading you're talking about? Well, I can understand people asking that question because they missed out reading in school and college. They are the smartphone generation, therefore they would not know what they missed out in. I remember we had the book A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. That was at school, and that is among many other books, you know. I'm only giving you an example, or lots of books, Shakespeare, for example. Anyway, now let me come back to this thing which we read and we were asked to read in school. It must have been age 11 or thereabouts, 10 or 11. And we had that famous scene where Sidney Carton had decided to give his life for another person who was the husband of the lady whom he loved. He loved Lucy Manet deeply. She got married to Charles Darnay. And at a moment when the French Revolution, when all this, Charles Darnay belongs to the Bourbons, Duke and things like that. At that moment they were sending all these people, royalty, to the guillotine. Sidney Carton decided that he would take the place of Charles Darnay. So he went in. It's a terribly moving scene. He went to the prison with some help from others, exchanged clothes with Charles Darnay, and took the clothes of the prison. And having given Charles Darnay a drug to make him sleep, sent Charles Darnay packing out of the prison. And there he was, waiting for the guillotine in place of Charles Darnay, in place of his friend, wanting to make the sacrifice of his life for Lucy Bennet. And as he was going up for the execution, he comforted someone, seamstress, who was waiting for the next execution, to be executed. She was all hysteria, and he comforted her. And this is what he said: "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known." These words were, when we read those words, we saw some meaning in what is called life and what is called sacrifice. And that took us some time. And you would ask, what is the benefit? It is such things that make up a human being's ability, a human being's inner life, the strengthening of his inner life. So, this and Shakespeare, say The Tempest, or anything, Lear, King Lear, anything, you will find that kind of reading of text makes you remember not only the words, but some of the qualities that come out. So this is the experience of a long form reading which we are missing out. And what we are left with is the skimming and scrolling, and the fact that writing and speaking is missing. So that's the situation. What are my thoughts as I conclude this video? To my mind, the time will soon come when AI will take away a lot of jobs. And it is only those who can have good reading capability, writing capability, and speaking capability, that will survive, because these are the real human capital. So it is time that we think about this, not only for ourselves and our careers, but for our children, because what is at stake is no less than the restoration of our mental ability, which is our capital. This is how I would see.